Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching or listening to the most electrifying podcast in all of internet radio today. You are listening or watching the Sportswire. My name is Vinny Apicella, and I am here with you today, and got a lot to talk about here. As you can see, I'm testing out the YouTube function and see how many views I can get here on my YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Sportswire Audio. Also, if you're listening to this, you can find the podcasts on any of your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc. Got a lot to talk about today. It's been a while since I've done a podcast, and it's simply because, well, I don't always have the time. But, you know what? I am going to try today in getting the YouTube video and the audio both out on the same time, at the same time. I know most people usually, release the video first or do the video live and then go to the audio. But you know what? I'm going to try this out, see if I can at least get some views and some other stuff. But anyways, I am here live. Again, my name is Vinny Apicella. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the Sportswire. Got a lot to talk about today. And again, I want to thank our sponsor, Anchor.fm. They are our podcasting platform for audio. And thank you to YouTube as well. But we are here. Today is Monday, July 20th, 2020, 7/20/20. Tonight is Monday Night Raw, obviously, but we're not going to talk about Raw tonight, because we've got a lot coming out of this past week. We've got a lot coming out of last night alone. WWE's Extreme Rules, the pay-per-view event on the WWE Network, and the horror show at Extreme Rules, It was a really good, I know there might be a controversial take, but it was a really good show. And quite honestly, I know people are shitting on it because, no fans in the building, but I guess a lot of people are upset with some of the storylines that were going into it. But you know what? People, just let them do what they got to do. I thought it was very, very entertaining. A couple of stipulations kind of sucked, but overall, the show was really good. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching the show last night. Like I said, stipulations could have been a little better, but whatever. It gave us this awesome picture of Rey Mysterio with his quote-unquote eye coming out of his socket. Of course, we know that it's a fake eye with fake blood, and I'm really surprised they didn't have Kane's character from See No Evil, Jacob Goodnight, come out to pluck the eye out. But whatever, it did give us that awesome image, although it was kind of sickening. Seth Rollins throwing up, kind of made it for how it was. But whatever, the report is that he's at a local medical facility, and it's hard for me to even get through it because of how ridiculous it was. He was at a medical facility, and luckily the optic nerve wasn't damaged, so he'll be fine. But anyways, back to the horror show at Extreme Rules. Quite honestly, the match card from top to bottom was actually really good. Starting with the tables match between Cesaro and Nakamura taking on the New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. That was a really good match, and I'm really happy that Cesaro and Nakamura won. I'm not big on Nakamura, but I am big on Cesaro, and they've just had him floundering in tag teams. Don't get me wrong, the bar was awesome. The bar was awesome. It was Sheamus and Cesaro, we know that. Up until, I believe, last year, to the end of I want to say maybe the end of 2018, because, then Sheamus was out for quite a while. Maybe it was the end of 2019, but either way, Sheamus and Cesaro were a great tag team, and now Cesaro is with Nakamura. I'm not big on Nakamura, like I said, but I really like how Cesaro is, that guy. And quite honestly, he deserves a world title run. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing a feud between Cesaro and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Uh, I would love to see that because Cesaro needs a world title shot. He needs a world title run. He needs to have that kind of push behind him. That kind of, he's over with the crowd when there's one, because he's just got that. He's got the charisma. He's got the look. I don't know why Vince McMahon soured on him. But he's been there for a decade now, over a decade, and from tagging with Tyson Kidd to Sheamus, and now Nakamura, he's ready for a singles run. Okay. Then, we had the, we also had the swamp fight. I'm not going to go in order of matches because, quite honestly, I don't want to. And I don't have to. It's my show, right? But anyways, we had the Wyatt family swamp fight, or the Wyatt swamp fight, whatever it's called. Was it for the Universal title, or was it not for the Universal title? How do you figure out who won and lost? We know that in the Boneyard match, we knew that The Undertaker won because he buried AJ Styles. In the Firefly Funhouse match, The Fiend pinned John Cena with Bray Wyatt doing the cover. I mean, that's a complete mind screw anyways. But in the Wyatt family swamp fight, or the Wyatt swamp fight, how did we determine a winner? Because all of a sudden, Braun Strowman threw Bray Wyatt into the water. Then Bray Wyatt came back out and pulled Braun into the water. And then you see the Fiend emerge. So, is Braun still champion? Did Bray win the title back? What happened? We don't know. Which is crazy to think about. We just don't know. Although, I enjoyed that match. It was a cinematic masterpiece, in my opinion. Sure, it was a little creepy, but having Alexa Bliss out there, come out as Sister Abigail, was actually pretty creative. And going back and showing, Braun and Alexa in a mixed match challenge, easy for me to say, and having them, together and showing the history and showing how Alexa Bliss was pretty close to him, and the pictures, the shots they chose were actually kind of flirtatious, so to speak, like almost like and the way she was talking, like you really want us to be together. We've always wanted to be together. We belong together. So that was actually kind of cool. I really enjoyed that. Then you had Asuka taking on Sasha Banks, defending her Raw Women's Champion. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Asuka. All right, she's great in the ring. She's a great talent, but I can't stand when she talks. Like, if the WWE would just, give her a manager, like a Paul Heyman, somebody that could actually talk in English instead of her yelling her gibberish in Japanese. I'm sick of that. Like, I fast forward anytime they're on the screen. Her and Kairi Sane. So it's sad, but that's what it is. At the end of the match, Asuka sprayed the green mist at Sasha Banks, and Sasha ducked. It hit the referee, and the referee went down. Bayley comes in, takes off the referee's shirt, puts it on herself, and makes the pin on Asuka for Banks, and supposedly that's the end of the match. So, but WWE still says it's unofficial. So, as of now, Asuka is still your Raw Women's Champion. Sasha Banks is unofficially the Women's Champion because she got the title. Bayley was not a sanctioned referee in the match. Bayley herself had quite a bit of trouble with Nikki Cross last night and her title defense of her SmackDown title. And I really like Nikki Cross. I think she's got to go back to that craziness. Like now she looks like she's just, I guess, a jumping bead. On an ADD kid that doesn't have their medication or whatever. And that's all she's. I mean, she's funny, to watch and stuff. She's crazy in that funny way, not crazy in that psychotic way. You know what I mean? And it would Nikki Cross would have been a better Sister Abigail instead of Alexa Bliss. But it is what it is. Either way, I like the match. I really like the women's division in the WWE is second to none, whether it's main roster or NXT. I did see, hashtag trending, give Naomi a chance, or Naomi deserves better. Quite honestly, with Charlotte and Becky both out right now, the women's division, a lot of them need to step up. Okay, and I don't want to get into the race card because, everybody's like, oh, well, if you say Lacey deserves better, you're racist. No, that's not true. Or that's the equivalent to the all lives matter. Again, that's not true. But I can understand, people want Naomi to get a better chance, and she's been SmackDown champion before. She's a fantastic talent, and she does deserve that opportunity to stay in the title picture. That a couple weeks ago, that karaoke battle on SmackDown was absolutely horrible. It had nothing to do, nothing. Like, let me put it this way: in the previous iteration of the Sportswire, and probably up on my old YouTube page, which I probably should upload, but anyways, on our old YouTube page, which was Via Apicella JR, my personal YouTube page. If you watch the 7-year anniversary spectacular of the old Sportswire iteration, I had karaoke contests on the show because, we couldn't have actual wrestling matches or whatever, but I wrote karaoke contests instead of, we had trivia contests, we had karaoke contests, we had, whatever, arm wrestling in order to, of course, now my mind is going blank, but in order to settle our differences, there we go. But that was what it was, okay? And I really think that Naomi does deserve better. Lacey deserves better. Dana Brooke deserves better. Quite honestly, she's the one that's been overlooked and underrated so much and underutilized. She deserves to have a world title. She's gorgeous, but she's in shape. She's built. She's got muscles. I mean, hell, Charlie Caruso has muscles too. I could see her and Zelina Vega in a match on Raw at some point in the near future over Angel Garza, but that's another story. Let's see. You also had, but at the end of the match, Bayley cheated to win over Nikki, of course, with Sasha Banks' interference, and the rest is history. Bayley escapes with her title. All right, then you have MVP coming out with Bobby Lashley. MVP was set to go against Apollo Crews for the United States Championship. Apollo Crews, at the last minute, was pulled from the match, quote-unquote game time decision, and he was not able to compete. So, with that said, MVP declared himself the new United States champion. Simple as that. Is he, was he diagnosed with COVID? We don't know. Of course, HIPAA violations. We don't want those. If he comes out to say it, that's one thing, but nothing that I've seen yet. Then let's see. We've also got The Miz and Morrison were not on the show. Bobby Lashley was other than coming out with MVP, was not booked on the show. I mean, he wasn't wrestling. AJ Styles, the Intercontinental Champion, was not there. The Viking Raiders were not there. The Street Profits were not there. I guess we must go to the eye for an eye match now with Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, which, like I said, gave us this picture. As you could tell, Seth Rollins did win. They did all the hokey stuff, with trying to extract the eye. They had a piece of rebar out there that had Singapore cane. Seth eventually used the stairs to extract the eye from Rey Mysterio. It was a great match. Brian Alvarez, the idiot who's partners with the other idiot, Dave Meltzer, tweeted out last night, well, it looks like they're doing hip tosses and head scissors in an eye for an eye match. And I responded, I'm like, yeah, it's a wrestling match, idiot. And then he also goes, well, I guess Rey Mysterio couldn't take out Seth's eye with a frog splash and something else. I said, because it's so funny and it's so blatant, the love for AEW and the hatred for WWE and the bias against WWE from both Meltzer and Alvarez that are, in my opinion, on AEW's payroll. But it's so blatantly there and obvious because of what's going on and everything, and with everything that they talk about. Okay, and I basically responded to him. I said, yeah, but if Marco Stunted Growth did a Canadian destroyer off the back of a dinosaur, that would have gotten it done, right? If you watched Dynamite, the Fight for the Fallen, this past Wednesday, you would get the reference, because that's exactly what happened. Although AEW is a lost cause right now. It really is. Every time I want to, give it a chance to do something to piss me off, and I'll keep watching it. Like I caught up. I watched over the past week. I watched both episodes of Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen. So yeah, I watched a lot of the AEW this week. Okay, and finally, we get to the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph made Drew McIntyre look strong as hell. And here's why. And a lot of people didn't agree with me about this. Don't agree with me about this. But here's what it came down to. It came down to the fact that the stipulation that Dolph Ziggler came up with was one of, it's Extreme Rules for him, but Drew McIntyre had to wrestle a normal match. And if he got counted out or disqualified, he would have lost the title. So he had, as a babyface, he had everything up against him. And what happened? Well, we all saw it. Drew McIntyre overcame it with a Claymore kick. And quite honestly, it was a fantastic Claymore kick. It was a fantastic match. Dolph Ziggler, is always one of the best sellers around. I really like, him, and a lot of people say, oh, he deserves a title shot, and he does. Don't get me wrong, he deserves a title run. But with that said, he's making a lot of money putting guys over, and he'll get over without going over, as some Bully Ray said, and Sonny Kiss said the same thing, although that's another story. But yes, I really liked the match. Drew McIntyre overcame all the odds stacked against him, as well as the temptation to use a chair, or the temptation to put Drew through a table, to put Dolph through a table, excuse me. You had to turn around and suplex it, to make sure not to do it. But overall, like I said, it was great card, great event. Came in at 2.5 hours, tight, very, very tight show. Not a lot of fluff or extra, that's one of the things the coronavirus has done for the WWE, has forced them to tighten up their ship, because they're not having a huge roster, especially with the 30 positive tests for COVID that the WWE's had over the past couple of weeks. And they've tightened up their ship. Their storylines are tight. I don't agree with Paul Heyman's firing of the creative as executive director of Raw, but Bruce Prichard is doing a great job. I just want to see them keep getting positive and keep going forward. And I'm not trying to be a WWE homer, because I'll tell it like it is, but I thoroughly, as a wrestling fan, as a WWE fan, I enjoyed it. I don't know why some people have to constantly shit on the product, but that's what it is. All right, so I am going to end this here. In my next episode, hopefully not tomorrow, probably Wednesday. My next episode on Wednesday, I will talk about AEW NXT, and we'll just go from there. And whatever else might be going on in the world, because we're still dealing with the Black Lives Matter garbage and the protests and the, just everything else. We're still dealing with that because of, Orange Man bad, and the statues coming down, and people who want to judge people from hundreds of years ago based on today's social justice standards. Granted, we all, and here's the thing, we all know racism is bad, okay? But here's the problem, okay? The more black people buy into Black Lives Matter, the group, okay, what they're fighting against is white supremacy, okay, which there's none at this point in time in our history. Okay, there are racists out there, but there's no white supremacy. There are white supremacists, I will say that. But again, they're judged harshly. But the thing is that they're going the complete opposite direction, and now they're starting to get to black supremacy, and it's going absolutely. If you're white in this day and age and you don't support the Black Lives Matter movement, you're called a racist. If you support Donald Trump, you're called a racist. Neither one of those is true, nor are they mutually exclusive. Okay, you can be a Trump supporter and not be a racist like I am. You could be a white person and not be racist like I am. I don't believe in the Black Lives Matter movement. I believe and I support black people and black lives. And like I've said, Black Lives Matter, but not to Black Lives Matter. Think about it. I'll be back on Wednesday. My name is Vinny Apicella. You can find the Sportswire, this video version on YouTube. You can find the audio version on anchor.fm, the Sportswire page, or just go to sportswireaudio.com or download it wherever you find your favorite podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, CastBox, Deezer, etc., etc., etc. Leave us a 5-star review and help us get the word out, okay? Always looking for guests, always looking for co-hosts, okay? Again, my name is Vinny Apicella, and I will be back with you probably Wednesday, I'm thinking. All right. Have a great day.